Welcome to Play with Purpose. It's a special MobileGroove series that looks at what happens when games are designed to do more than just entertain. Not just a program here, right? It's a new and exciting frontier. It's a megatrend. It's also what we're going to discover and explore together because I catch up firsthand with the creators behind some titles you would never expect. I mean, these are totally different ways of looking at gaming and how they've harnessed game mechanics to make us think differently about health, democracy, even history. Well, that's all exciting as well. So get ready to free your mind and meet the pioneers who I have met as well, who are ahead of the curve. I mean, this isn't about designing games that are meant to be played. This is about games that were made to matter. Games are about emotional connection. We've heard that throughout the interviews that I've been doing with various companies across the ecosystem. We know that they have an impact. We love the games that we play, and we play the games that we love, and that connection matters, whether it's for brands, whether it's for studios across the ecosystem. But one thing I haven't looked at, and I'm very excited to do today with my guest, Jukka from Soihtu, is the impact of games on mental health. And you have a studio making these games, but where did you make your connection and how did you start?
Yeah, so basically I've been in the games industry for about 15 years, shipped multiple games on multiple platforms. And in 2020, because it's a rough industry, I had to shut down the studio. And I started thinking like, what I want to do next. And I felt that I want to do something different than just pure entertainment. And then a friend of mine introduced me to a professor in neuroscience in a local university in Finland. And basically on the research he had been doing for almost 15 years on can actually depression be treated using video games? And they had a funding for building the next version for a large-scale clinical trial. So I felt like, okay, I still get to do games, but with a much more noble purpose than just entertainment. So I joined that about 5 years ago. Spent about 2.5 years in the university side, which was kind of weird in the neuroscience department as a game developer.
As a game dev,
But at the end of the day, we actually built a product that was tested on a little bit over 1,000 patients suffering from major depressive disorder. And the results were super exciting and promising. And we actually found a startup based on those results.
And building the games based on those mechanics, based on those findings, because what are the mechanics that make us happy? That's an interesting question.
Basically, I think like overall, when you think about games and, for example, therapy, psychotherapy or whatnot, people usually think about like it's some kind of a chat that you interact with gamified elements. But whereas we're actually game-based, it's front to end, a full-fledged video game. And basically the mechanisms of action that we use, it's usually, if we're, for example, talking about depression, it's usually people tend to think about the mood symptoms. So the rumination, the negative thoughts, the negative bias that usually depression has. But actually the core underlying problem is neurocognitive impairments. So the lack of attention, the lack of problem solving, lack in working memory and so on. And those actually sound like things that are usually tackled with game mechanics anyway.
Absolutely.
So the whole emphasis is built around that we actually start training those through a video game. And we actually measure almost on a millisecond scale what happens, what interactions the patient or the player does. And we start adapting those values. So at the end of the day, the brain is a muscle, so it can be drained. And once we train that, we actually see a direct impact to the mood symptoms as well.
When you think of everything we read about, the stereotypical gamer is some isolated guy in his basement, how can that be not depressing, right? And you think you're creating more isolated people in sort of their own world. Exactly true. That flies in the face of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like when we started with the academic project, it was already the 4th iteration of it. So we didn't have a chance to change that much. And it was actually a first-person action game running on PC. That we did the clinical trials on. And out of the 1,000+ patients, 2/3 were female.
Oh.
So I was kind of skeptic about
Okay.
especially retention, like
Yeah.
an action game on PC and a female audience.
Female, no. Yeah.
But actually, we had a great retention. We had like 30% after 8 weeks, and they played it for 46 hours on average. So that's a lot of game time.
So what's it doing? Is it like the gameplay and the mechanics are activating parts of the brain, parts of our, parts of capabilities that we need? Or is it just because we're distracted and we're not thinking about it? I mean, does it address the problem or the symptoms?
Basically, it addresses the problem itself. So whereas traditional treatments, especially in depression, tackle the kind of symptoms, whereas we try to fix the problem. So basically, it feels and looks like a video game. So basically, let me give you a simple example from the clinical trial version. So basically, you walk through a tunnel. There's 3 icons on the floor.
Wow.
And you have to remember the icons about 30 seconds later. And pick the right choice out of 3. But anything can happen between those 30 seconds. You can be encountering an enemy. You might have to do something else. So you have to actually keep those in your working memory for long enough. And those kind of things we start to add up based on the performance of patient in the product. And so we kind of measure where they're at, and then we start kind of tightening the screw. So their brain has to actually work more. And then that mixed with a traditional gameplay kind of brings a perfect pacing. Because when you train something, you train a muscle, you actually have to take those pauses. And that's where the traditional gameplay comes in. So it lets your brain relax. You get the adventure in the world for a while. And then you hit another kind of a neurocognitive task once again.
So I've been watching the space for a while and believing in it. But here you are, you're at Gamescom, and you also had a talk on this. So people are listening. What is the response out there? What are you feeling is like the groundswell and thinking about this? Because you built this game. It was 5 years in research and work in academia. It's out here now, and people are listening out here now. That must be a change.
It definitely is. And I think like usually when we talk, first when you mention this, people start to think like, okay, it's some kind of a gamified therapy app or something.
Yeah, or just lets you chat so you're not alone in the world. Yeah.
Whereas when we show for a trailer or something about it, they totally get it. Like, okay, it's a game. It looks fun. And we identified in the research itself, the papers coming out later this year. Basically, we saw that immersion is a huge factor. So the more immersed the patient is, actually better the efficacy itself. And games were an immersive medium by default, better than anything out there.
What does that look like for, spreading the word? I mean, it's like, okay, it's a great game, and I'll certainly be talking about it, giving it a platform on my podcast and elsewhere when you're
don't worry, the next version is mobile.
That's my first. Smart, because then you can have it in those moments when you need it.
Absolutely, and it's not going to be a first-person action game anymore. So kind of something more appealable for the mobile audiences.
So more sort of snackable.
Yeah, kind of. I
you
think
can go
like,
in and out of.
Yeah, more or less. And I think like the main inspiration is Astrobot from PlayStation. I love that game, and it's still like sadly for the audiences that suffer from depression, 2/3 are female. So it has to be something that has a wide appeal for different audiences, and we feel like some kind of platformer itself is the perfect fit.
It's great what you're doing, as you said yourself, not just building games, not just making games, but also having a purpose. Where does that come in? Is this something where you have to do like partnerships with institutes or get, social proof from, like some apps, for example, they say, well, we're recommended by doctors, because you need to get the word out now to the people who need you the most. How are you doing that?
Yeah, so basically right now we're in product development. So we're going to be a digital medicine in the future. So it's a regulated industry. So basically we've built up that whole regulatory system. And in the future, hopefully we're going to be FDA-approved in the US and have a CE mark in the Europe.
Wow.
So it's not
better than legalizing marijuana.
Absolutely. And so it's not just on the App Store. It's actually something that the doctor will prescribe in the future.
That doctor will prescribe. I'm trying to grasp that for a moment. That is something because, it's easy to say, okay, we will just legalize some drugs and keep people happy out there, but this is going to keep them happy and motivated and address, as you said, the problem. Whereas many don't, many do not. I mean, it's easy to just literally, take something for it, right?
Yeah, and looking at games overall, compared especially to drugs, antidepressants, or psychotherapy, it's like there's a core problem there in that antidepressants have huge side effects, especially like the younger generation hate that. And psychotherapy, it's non-accessible for a lot of people, and it takes a long time to get access. So games, they don't really have that much side effects beyond like nausea or something like that. So it can be something that can actually be prescribed right away to help.
That is very impressive. Does AI play a role in here anywhere to sort of make certain that this gameplay is like made for me or affirming me?
It's the adaptability in the training mechanisms that are made precisely for you. Because we measure precisely your brain in this case. And so we don't use actually AI. And it's also, I think, like AI on the medical perspective, it's still a black box.
Yeah, it's questionable.
I think it's a scary thought to use it for self-medication, because it kind of boosts your mood, being it bad or good.
It's too affirmative. I've never seen anything as enthusiastic as AI.
Yeah.
Even though I'm asking a question, oh, you made a mistake, but it's a great mistake, and we love you for it. It's like, yes.
And that's a scary thought when it comes to mental health.
But there are many who would say, well, you're trying to treat a behavior with an addictive or addictive activity. Yeah.
We actually have data on that. So in the clinical trial, we measured a kind of a PHQ-9, which is the standard depression questionnaire. That was our primary endpoint. But at the same time, we actually measured game addiction. We didn't see any increase in that. Even with the 46 hours in 8 weeks, no change. We measured quality of life. So were the patients actually feeling better on their everyday life with the product they were using? And they did. It was exceptionally great results on that as well.
So what's working there? I mean, I get the mechanics. So I have to remember, I have to be engaged. I can't just be in brain fog, right? But what is it about that is making it possible to see these great results? There must be something in the mechanics.
Yeah, I think like you actually mentioned the core problem. It's the brain fog, precisely. And that's what basically we're unveiling. When you train your brain, we're kind of more or less rewiring your brain. So basically we're activating the neuroplasticity, which allows lasting changes within your brain chemistry. And that's like the core DNA of our product. And once we get those, the neuroplasticity activated and start training those mechanisms, they actually unveil that fog that you're having. And that can instantly be seen in everyday life.
Probably there's something non-threatening about it. I mean, everyone is a gamer, so there's not like a stereotype or a segment. It is appealing, broadly appealing. You're coming out on mobile. So it's more like, it's not got the feeling or even the stigma of like, I have to treat myself, or I'm being treated, or I'm in treatment. No, I'm training.
Yeah, pretty much.
My fitness pal for your brain.
Pretty much, except in this case, it's the doctor recommends it.
Yeah, and the doctor will recommend it. Have you talked to doctors? Do you blow their mind when you say, hey, here's what you're going to be prescribing next?
Absolutely. I think like the core problem that we're solving, there's actually no solutions for it yet.
Yeah.
It's once again, basically, we're talking about millisecond scales that we track and adapt. So there's no other medium out there that actually can work in those kind of limitations, except for games. So basically, they're definitely excited when they understand, okay, so you're solving a problem that we actually can't help with nowadays. So it's definitely kind of, they say that we're battling depression from two sides. We're targeting the mood symptoms with psychotherapy, antidepressants, and so on. And we're tackling that neurocognitive impairment at the same time.
True.
And they do match perfectly, so they boost each other.
So what do you say to studios? They're not really looking beyond games to the possibilities of what can happen out there or what they can do. And here you are. You're a game dev, but you're in this area, bringing games into another. What do you say to them to maybe get them excited about the cross-pollination opportunities and the opportunity space for gaming elsewhere?
Yeah, I think like I saw the interesting challenge because half of our founding team they're neuroscientists, they're professors in neuroscience and so on. So basically they came up with the mechanisms that treat the patient, and basically you have to repeat them like hundreds of times. And the moment we saw it from the game design perspective, we were like, okay, that's not going to be fun. So we started literally bashing our heads together. So how do we make this fun and engaging? So I found that core challenge to be super interesting from the game design perspective. How do we solve this? How do we make this fun? Mm-hmm. So that is definitely something that I think like we as an industry in the game side, we can actually bring so much more, because there's so many great game designers out there that can actually help people just by designing mechanisms that are fun and treating.
So there's a lot of possibilities here. Where do you see the next possibilities? I mean, you've got your game, it'll be going mobile, but there's a vast opportunity for gaming and mental health and wellness.
Absolutely. I think like just focusing on what makes traditional games fun and bringing that to the area of health and well-being is definitely the next step that we should take. Because that drives the whole engagement and immersion to a whole different level than, for example, the current apps on wellness have. Yeah.
And as you said, the immersive experience, and that is what gaming does best.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Other actually that just came to my mind is that usually when, especially the medical side, people talk about onboarding, which is usually the biggest dropout for patients. That's something that we as a game industry, we're better than anyone in that.
In onboarding, absolutely. I hadn't thought about that, but that is true. So there's a lot that they can learn from you. Do you find that then the other side, the doctors, I mean, the neuroscientists, obviously, in the founder's company, but when you're talking to their peers, are they getting it?
They are, especially now that we have the data, we have the numbers. Okay. They believe the numbers. We can say anything, but you have to back it with data. Yeah. And as long as you have that, you're going to believe it.
Yeah. So there's a groundswell. There's something happening out there. And it's great news because, as you said, so many great game devs that, and maybe they don't want to make, another casual game. Want to do something different and go into different areas.
Absolutely. I love my job. I get to help people and I get to make games. There's a lot of kind of small startups in this area, even bigger ones, but usually they're run by scientists only. And they're not game makers. Yeah. We need that experience in those teams as well.
Need the right and left hemispheres of the brain here. Well, this is fascinating, Jukka. And you said, more to come, a mobile game. I mean, I hope that you will keep me in mind as you have more of these. And I hope you're inspiring some game developers out there to think more broadly about where they can apply their talents, because you certainly have. So I applaud that.
I absolutely hope so.
I absolutely do. I applaud you, Jukka, may I say. Pleasure.
Pleasure was all mine.
So now we move from healing the mind to shaping the world. And my next guest was a real surprise at Gamescom, which is a massive gaming festival, because it's the last place in the world you would really expect to run into representatives from the German government. But hey, that's exactly what I did. And they were there talking about how they're using gaming mechanics to get us thinking about really tough topics, migration, media, and power. So this is a real first, and I'm excited to bring it to you.
We talk about games and brands and beyond games, very hot topic. Now we have a very cool topic with you, Felix Zimmermann, because this is not about entertainment, this is about edutainment, games, and the German government. How does that come together?
Yeah, so we are a part of the German government, but we are like a specific part of the German government. We are the Federal Agency for Civic Education. So our whole idea or our mission is to do civic education, political education, help people engage with democracy. Also because of our, of course, very problematic history as Germany, there are specific needs to help people identify with democracy and democratic ideals. So that's what we do. And civic education should be for everyone, but of course, it oftentimes reaches people of higher education or in higher education. And so we try to reach new target audiences, and games are a way to reach a new target audience gamers, people who like to play, but also young people that like to play, and we try to reach them with games.
So you talk about reaching new audiences. Is this a new project or has this been around for a while?
Yeah, that's a new project. We have been to Gamescom before, but in different parts of Gamescom. Now we are here in the Indie Arena booth. We try to be very close to the game developers and to gamers. So that's a new project. And that's why we have chosen these 5 games to be right here in the mix with all the other games with Kickin.
So you're supporting indies. And how does that work? Is it that, indies are coming to you with these ideas, or are you saying to indies, these are the types of games we want you to produce?
So no, we don't tell them which games they should produce or shouldn't produce. So they could apply for the specific booths here during the normal Indie Arena booth application process, and they could say, okay, I think our game could fit with Games for Democracy. And then we had the Indie Arena booth jury that looked at these games, checked if they're good games, interesting games, and then afterwards we looked at like maybe the top 10. And then we made a decision which of these games we should present here, which fits together well, and that's what we did.
I mean, it is interesting. I was most excited by the media circus, control the story, control the world. And it's, the real deal. We're sitting here, a newspaper on the table and, so what's the game about? Looks really interesting. I mean, from what I can see, right in time with where we are, right? A little bit of fake news in there.
Yeah, so the idea, I mean, of course, if you want have more information about the game, we have the developers here, so it's best to talk with them. But the idea is that you have a newspaper and you have to make sure that the newspaper can exist in the future. So must be financially viable, but also you have influence from different people who want you to share specific stories, maybe about their run for power as mayor for the city, stuff like that. And you can decide, do you want to give in or do you want to hold up your morals, per se, but also risk that your newspaper can continue because you run out of money.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the real world, isn't it? That's not even a game. That's the real deal. What about the other games? Have you played any, Felix? Do you have a favorite?
Yeah, I mean, I have played, of course, all of these games during the jury process. But from what I've heard from the developers is that they've made huge leaps since the jury process. They have further developed their games. So what I've played were merely prototypes of these games. So I'm very excited to play all of these games again. And of course, I can pick favorites. I like all of these 5 games. That's why we as fellow agency picked them.
I love hanging out with indies. And are these then really just companies that were in this before, or you found them? These are the gems that you found, the games that you found. Are these games with commercial possibilities, global reach?
So, I mean, the idea for all of these games is that they want to be on platforms like Steam, and they want to sell, and they want to reach audiences. So that's also what we focused on, specific games that are, of course, they have an educational focus somewhat, but are entertainment games that want to reach people on Steam. I mean, what we can see, I think, in this entire Indie Arena booth, the entire Indie Arena of Gamescom, is that we see more and more games tackling political topics. And that's interesting to see. So we are merely like giving them specific space and, like curating it in such a way that we have like this framing, Games for Democracy, helping them reach broader audiences. That's what we do. But we don't have to force politics into the games because that's what the game developers do for themselves. They want to put out their ideas about how we want to live together in the future. And so that you can see right here and also in different games around games.
That's what we were so excited about at the beginning of the metaverse. We said, well, it's, it's our world, our rules in a sense, so we can create a different world. What are you talking about when you say the new audiences? Is there a certain demographic, age groups, region even?
So, I mean, for civic education, there's normally always focus on younger people because they are hard to reach with. Of course, we have
games.
Yeah, I mean, we have very many different publications and stuff like that, but that's hard to reach younger people with like our news book that we publish here as Federal Agency. So we are specifically focused, of course, on younger people. But I mean, if you look at the different studies that exist about who plays video games, you see that it's a very broad, broad demographic, and you see younger people, of course, but also increasingly older people that play video games. Maybe a target audience that plays games but doesn't engage with other, publications that focus on politics and stuff like that. So they are oftentimes interested to some degree in politics, but they struggle to find reliable information about political topics. And we try to help them with that. That's what we do at Federal Agency. And we try to bring this information also in the gaming space. So if you look at these games here, of course, they deal with very important real-world topics about challenges that democracy is facing worldwide. So when people...
So such as, tell me about the assortment of games, because these were the winners.
Yeah,
what do you have?
For example, if you take a look at Take Us North, it's a game dealing with the topic of migration. And of course, this is a game about the US-Mexican border.
Oh,
so
okay.
That's been very interesting.
Right.
Also, we wanted to show games not only from Germany. So we have, like, for example, we have a game there, Compensation Not Guaranteed. It's from Singapore again. And they deal with the democratization process after being left by the colonial forces in Singapore. So it's a fictive setting, but it's based on their real-world history. And they talk about how they have to, adapt to this new bureaucracy and democratic processes in their country. And you have to be, as part of the government, you have to make hard decisions about the future of the people in this land. So these are the topics that we have here, and we try to focus on very different countries of the world, also different perspectives: migration, bureaucracy, memory culture.
The Darkest Files, what's that? That sounds a little bit foreboding.
Yeah, The Darkest Files is about German history, about the 1950s in Germany. So in the 1950s, of course, there was a time of reckoning for the people in Germany after what they have done during National Socialism. But oftentimes, many people didn't want to engage with that. And there were people that tried to talk about the crimes that happened during the 30s and 40s and bring them to the forefront. And that's what this game is about. It brings justice to the people that had suffered under Nazi regime.
And we got something about Glass. What's Glass?
Glasshouse, very interesting game. It's from Italy, developers.
Okay.
It's, I think it's quite similar in aesthetics and what you do there to a game called Disco Elysium, if that rings a bell. So it's a role-playing game, and interestingly, it's very fictional setting, little steampunky setting. But interestingly, when you create your character there in this game, like you do in role-playing games, you also have to focus on your political compass. So you have to find your own political ideology in the game, and it's one of the core mechanics of the game that you have like a political compass and engage with different political compass of other people in the game world. And so that's mechanically, I think, very interesting, fits well with this topic. So that's why we chose Glasshouse for the booth.
That's really something. I mean, it is, for me, it's very encouraging because I believe games are more than games. So it's great to hear that you're not just, dressing your avatar, you're thinking for your political compass. You are educating and informing your avatar. You are choosing your path. That's exciting, not just the games as we know it. So overall, where does it go from here, Felix? I mean, it's obvious that this is where the audience is. We talk about it. That's the audience. That's why brands are there. Other companies, there's in-game ads, the whole deal. They know that they can reach people in these games. What about you? Has there been something about the response to this so far or the next steps for it? Because, it's a courageous program.
Yeah, so, I mean, this is an experiment, and we try to, take it all in and find out how people respond to it. Until now, I could say, it's the first day. People are responding to it very well. So I think that maybe we'll do that again next year, and then maybe after that. And also, of course, we are considering if we might even develop our own games or, talk to game studios to develop games for us. So that would also be a next step for us. So maybe, both ideas could be developed further. So this could be even bigger, maybe in the future. We have to take a look at that. And maybe we will also bring our own games to show.
Now that would be something, your own games. Are you a gamer yourself, Felix?
Yes, I'm a gamer. So that's how I was able, you could say, to bring this very specific topic to the federal agency, to the government, and tell them that's important. And they listen to me, so that's good. So that's why we're here.
That is really something special. I mean, whoever thought the skill set to work in the government might be you're a gaming enthusiast. That is awesome. Felix, I wish you all the best because it's encouraging to see games being more than games. I know they are. And good luck with everything. It was great chatting with you.
Very much.
So if games can teach us about the present, which they can make us think about hot topics, current affairs, politics, but can they also preserve the past? Can they give us a different way of looking at the past? Well, the answer is a resounding yes, I'm happy to say. And our final segment explores this in the first ever game ever created to focus on the Holocaust. And it doesn't just give us the history of it, it brings together empathy and education in an entirely new way to drive connection and reflection. And it has 2 million players, and we're going to hear about it next.
Going beyond games. It's not just a concept. It's really happening at Gamescom. And Luke, this is the first time for you at Gamescom, but an amazing game that you're bringing back, as I see. You know, it came out before, but maybe this is the time now to really come out with it full force. Tell me about it.
Yeah, so The Light and Darkness was launched in 2023. It was on PlayStation and on the Epic Game Store on PC, and it was basically the first video game that actually properly addresses the Holocaust. It's about the Holocaust in France, it is, and basically it's as realistic as possible. So
yeah, I saw some actual like footage. I mean, black and white footage built into it, like a feeling of living in a documentary in a way.
Yeah. So in between scenes, we pretty much show the real photos, we show the real documents, we show even the real footage, things like that. So even if it is with fictional characters, they're all kind of inspired by real things that happened. Very much.
So you're the person behind this and so dedicated and interested since 2023 to now. The idea for it, where did it come from?
I've been trying to make this for close. I've been trying to make it for close to like 15 years since 2009.
All right.
I had, and each year I couldn't find anyone to fund it. So I had to wait until I became more successful in my career so I could self-fund the original one. So we launched it for free. We did so. It's free game, but now we're pretty much coming out with the director's cut, which has better graphics, has more scenes which we want to put in the original one, because now we finally have funders.
Okay, because you got better funding.
Yeah, because basically when the game came out, I mean, let's put it this way, it was taboo, only impossible to make a video game about the Holocaust. It was pretty much in the gaming industry. Because again, all these games which you see about Nazi Germany, they don't really delve into it. They kind of very much go towards the side, never really jump
in. Or it's just straight combat games I've seen as well,
or
right?
straight combat games, but they never really delve straight into it. So the industry kind of thought they can never build something like this. And we kind of proved that it was the case. I mean, 2023, we've had no negative feedback pretty much on it. Like again, from the mainstream press, even from organizations, if anything, we've kind of shown that Holocaust memory can continue within video games because people don't necessarily pay that much attention to film anymore. So it's just like film, comic books, or books. It's just
I mean, games are where the audience is and you can reach them there. The actual memories, are they from documented memories and stories? Because I mean, there's a lot of those projects going on. I think it was Spielberg even remembered collecting all of the witness accounts. Yes, exactly.
So yeah, for the original, we worked a bit with the Show Foundation, but so we took a lot of things which happened during the Holocaust, but we didn't focus. It's not the story of survivors because the game's out, so I'm not spoiling anything. All the characters do die. So instead, we just took a lot of things which we know did happen and kind of just put it all within the story, while not necessarily being kind of like a documentary, very much. But also nothing too, that's kind of in between scenes. You see all the documents, you see all the proof. So it's all kind of factual, it is, but still within a fictional story. You just took so multiple people and kind of just inserted it into these characters to be able to tell that story.
So I was watching some of this story, you know, and it's a dialogue. It feels very real. It feels current almost in a way. Did you intend that it could be something that I could play with and want to play with now, even though we're going back in history, that it feels sort of, that current feel to it?
Well, I think what was interesting that when it kind of launched in 2023, that's very much when anti-Semitism started really hardcore rising again. And I was kind of like, oh no, like my original goal was just to release a Holocaust, a game about the Holocaust, and then it just suddenly became relevant. It did. So it's still today it feels even more relevant, like say again, that the things with the characters encounter, all that thing, the way society's changing, it's very much becoming like even today. It is, but it's kind of something that was accidental. We just didn't know the world was becoming like this. And that's what's become interesting, that since we launched it, it's been interesting. We've actually had massive success, like over 2 million people have finished it. And we just continue to have success. It's free to play. It is. So it's an interesting thing. While anti-Semitism is rising, but at the same time, we're having so many people play this game and actually change, really feel emotionally connected to it. So I just view it this way. I think video games are the solution. They are towards kind of like trying to reduce things.
And make that connection very much.
Yeah.
I mean, 2 million players. Tell me a little bit about the gameplay, actually. I mean, it is about being more than a game. So there's an educational and an informative element to it, but there's also a connectedness and maybe also something actionable to it. What do I actually do in the game?
Well, so basically, it could very much be just an animated film, because it's very much you go through the scenes, all those things. But I focus mostly on players having empathy. Not necessarily, it is educational in the sense that it's real and everything is factual. What do I mean by educational? Because if you look at it, I think the way Holocaust education has been done is also part of the failure, while we're seeing things rise right now too. It's because people focus so much on just educating about the facts. They won't know, how can I say, like empathy towards the victims. They didn't. So this is something where I noticed with the players, they actually have an emotional reaction out of it. And I think
How
that's...
do they interact with the actual characters and particularly in your director's cut? So that must be something particularly engaging and also encouraging as part of the gameplay.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's very much compared to a film, since you've grown to kind of become attached to these characters, right? Over the course of an hour, the director's cut is most likely going to be like probably an hour and a half to 2 hours it is. And it's just they become attached to these characters. So when the characters actually do die at the end, which I'm okay spoiling that, I am, is they actually have a lot bigger emotional reaction to do it compared to a film. Because again, you've become very much part of these characters.
Because you're not a spectator, you are involved in the story.
Yeah, you are involved in that. And that's why I think, again, it's about empathy kind of first and foremost. And I think that's what video games are so powerful with. They are, again, and I love movies, but it's just movie, you're passive. A video game, actually, you do become that character. And also nothing too, since I went very much the opposite route of Hollywood. Hollywood focused a lot on stories of survivors. I focus on the truth, which is majority, 70% were murdered. So that's why these characters don't survive. They don't. And I think that actually has, from the player reaction too, that's why they also get a lot more emotional, because they all expected the characters to survive. They do.
So it is realistic, very much realistic in that sense.
So we took the first step, and now people are kind of starting to get it, understand it. And that's why there's actually multiple games about the Holocaust now in development, because of us launching Light and Darkness. Now, it's different than what we're doing, because they're still focusing on stories of survivors. We're still like, no, we want to focus on what we consider more real. And so even the next game, which we'll be announcing next year, we're basically, what it went public, what it's about, it's called Tears of Libya. It's about the Holocaust in Libya this time. So again, we made something about the Holocaust in France, the first video game, but I'm not going to jump into Eastern Europe. That's up for the other game developers, which are doing that. Instead, majority of people don't know the Holocaust happened also in North Africa. So again, to kind of showcase something kind of new, it is, and educational.
What is it about video games that works really well for a topic like this? Because it's very courageous to take it on. You know, you would say, well, a game has to be fun, you know, and you would say, this is not a fun topic, but here you've approached it and you've succeeded.
So I would say the key word is engaging. It's not fun. It's just making something that's engaging, because it's again, like looking at movies, right? Some people could look at a very simplistic way at film and be like, people just want to watch Jurassic Park. But no, they also want to watch Schindler's List. And I think Spielberg released both of those films the same year he did. So video games are going to say, wait, you just have to be engaging, not necessarily fun. And I think it's more like the mainstream audience, not mainstream audience, but mainstream media, those things don't quite get video games yet. But what was interesting, how Light and Darkness, we got all our press from the mainstream audience, like economists, like the Times in the UK, and it was all super supportive from the mainstream audience. So it's an interesting thing. And also now thing too, like normally back in the day, you'd have probably Holocaust museums go after our game, right?
Yeah.
Instead, no, they've actually been praising it. I'm actually consulted a few Holocaust museums now too. So it's very much changed, I think, the Holocaust education space, which I think is, again, for the better.
Indeed, because this is where the audience is.
Exactly.
And engagement is universal, and to interest people.
Everyone worldwide can. I mean, let's put it this way. We've very much reached the Arab world. We have. I mean, like Saudi Arabia, I'm very proud of that. And I think, because, Saudi Arabia, they don't have Holocaust museums, all those things they don't. And also nothing with Holocaust museums. Let's put it this way. In America, they've done surveys. 80% of Americans haven't been to Holocaust museum. Why? Because they don't have access to one. So that's why video games, all those things need to be put out.
Or also maybe a little bit about way it's presented, because you feel like you're not a part of it. You are a spectator. You are looking at it in a museum. Whereas here, I am in the game.
Yeah, you actually become a part of it. You do. Yeah, because that's actually the point. Because one of my big criticism, not of the US Holocaust Museum in DC, which is fantastic, but smaller ones, I enter it and I don't know who these people are. So I don't really have that much of a connection. While this thing here with the Light and Darkness, the characters are very much, they're not perfect. And that's actually what makes them more lovable. It is like one of the characters who's a French Jew, his name is Bernard. And he's, long story short, he's kind of an idiot. He is. Like the entire time he is kind of an idiot. He's like comic relief thing. But because he's not perfect, I think that's what makes, again, people
more human and identifiable. Yeah.
Very much. So that's what I think. Because even like one example, like which is in the game, there's a character called Jacob. And pretty much he does flee at one point when the Nazis come to a countryside. But then after a while, he couldn't find any more places to hide. So he just went back to his apartment and then got rounded up. But that's a real story of actually what happened. So all these small elements like that, which to most people, they'd be like, that sounds really dumb. But of course, no one really knew exactly what the Nazis were doing. So it's like, there's anywhere to go, I just go back to my apartment. So all these small things like that human error that, again, kind of make it more realistic and more human.
Exactly. More human, more engaging. And Luke, I have to say, when it comes to engaging, it's a very engaging interview with you as well. And I wish you all the best. The director's cut flies. And your next game, when is that coming out?
Tears of Libya. It's going to be shown this November, basically probably 2 years from now. But the director's cut launches next spring. It does.
Good luck with that.
Thank you so much.
And maybe next time at Gamescom. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So these are the creators that didn't just build games. These aren't just another title. These are people who built experiences that can change our lives, spark new learnings, and even surprise you. They certainly surprised me. And in the middle of all of this, Play with Purpose isn't just the title of the series. It's much more than that. It's a challenge to designers, investors, players, everyone in the ecosystem to reimagine, what does it mean to make a game? What can games do? And more importantly, where can games go next?